This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic. What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is March 10th, 2022. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host Luke Sylvia. Luke, what is going on?
Magic win, Magic win, Magic win. Get your pizza. If you're in Florida. If you're me, you can't get your pizza.
Ooh, I had pizza today, actually.
Oh, I did too. I had some
pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yeah.
Yep. People are not going to like that, but
no, they aren't. But yeah, Magic win, guys. Use your discount code Magic win. Get yourself some pizza. I mean, you know, tankers might be cringing a little bit, but the Rockets won tonight. We're good to go. We're locked and loaded. We're good to go. The tank is still rolling.
Pistons lost to the Bulls tonight. I was hoping that they had pulled out the W because it looked like the Magic were going to kind of like coast to a win tonight against the Pelicans in New Orleans. That wasn't totally the case, unfortunately, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But it would have been that much sweeter had the Pistons, pulled out the W, so the Magic really wouldn't have had anything to worry about tonight. But it's just a game, still a couple games back of the Detroit Pistons, or at least a game back, I think, in the standings with the win tonight. So we're going to talk about, obviously, we'll talk about the Suns' loss. What was that? Tuesday night. We'll talk about
game and a half behind the Pistons, by the way.
What's that?
Game and a half behind the Pistons, by the way.
Game and a half behind the Pistons. Thank you.
But yes, that was the Suns game.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Suns game. We'll talk about the win over the Pelicans from Wednesday night. And then we're going to talk about Wendell Carter Jr. because the dude has just gone up a level. Before we do that, we do have a couple of housekeeping items here. So first of all, patreon.com. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you're probably just amazed at how just good-looking Luke and myself are, especially me.
Well,
and
besides
like,
the pimple on the top of my forehead, but yeah, continue, guys.
Yeah, in my receding hairline, no big deal. You can't see how big my ears are because I'm wearing headphones, but they stick out. I've been called Dumbo a time or two.
Oh.
However, if you were wondering how you could help financially support the Sixth Man Show, wonder no more. Patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show. We have 3 great tiers that you can subscribe to help support the show, and it goes a long way. We shout out every single one of our patrons on each episode, and that's what we're going to do right now. Shout out Court Cousins. Luke, I don't know if you've seen the new Court Cousins studio, but it looks great. Kyle and Peace, you guys do a great job. Shout out to Drew Gooden, Armin, Keith Garcia, Zico, Carson Tulo, Nathan Lynn, Ellis, Jonathan Borges, Norm L., Magic Player History, Julio, Bailey, Matt Lyman, Eric Segovia, Gabe Gaines. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you. Appreciate that so much. You guys are awesome. Okay, Luke. First up, Tuesday night, Magic had a couple of days off, and they took on the Phoenix Suns at home in Orlando. First of all, I just want to say, producer Kevin alluded to this in our group chat, kind of before the game that day, and said, whose idea was it to have the Magic wear their orange city jerseys at home against the Phoenix Suns? That is one of the worst ideas in the history of the world. And if 2014 me would have turned on that game, I would have looked at the ticker, the score at the bottom, and said, why are the Suns playing the Suns? Because the logos, both orange, really could have thrown you off. But Jalen missed his second straight game with the sprained right ankle. We saw him in the boot the other night, and then Wendell Carter returned to the lineup after missing a couple of games with the non-COVID related illness. The Suns, on the other hand, were without Chris Paul and without Devin Booker. So, Luke, if there was any night that you were going to take it to the Phoenix Suns and try to scratch out a win, this was going to be the one. Now, the Magic start the game really not on a hot start. The first couple of minutes, the Suns go on a 14-2 run, take a 12-point lead before the Magic actually come back and tie it up with 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. By the end of the first quarter, you're only down 6. So pretty rough start. You're able to come back. You're able to battle back. Second quarter goes a little bit better for the Magic. They go down 10 into the half. And then the third quarter, Luke, is where things really started to get pretty hairy for the Magic. Magic go down by as much as 15 in that third quarter before they're able to go on a little bit of a run, down 8 heading into the fourth quarter. And that's really where the story of this game starts for the Magic. So you go down big early. You go down big in the third quarter. You kind of claw back into the game. And then the game throughout the fourth quarter, Luke, was really, really relatively close. Magic do go down by 8, but come all the way back to tie the game with 3 minutes and 25 seconds left on a Cole Anthony running layup. And then down the stretch here, Luke, the Magic go 6 possessions in a row at the end of the game without Franz Wagner touching the ball at all. And the Magic just ran out of time in this one. You play the free throw game down the stretch, just not able to make enough plays. And then Franz Wagner actually gets a good look. You're down 3 with 6.9 seconds left. And Bridges just makes a crazy block on Franz Wagner to end the game. So credit to the Magic for fighting, again, coming back twice in this game to make it a game towards the end. But yeah, just really perplexing to me that the Magic didn't go to Franz Wagner more down the stretch. Only 6 points, 3 of 8 from the floor for the night for Franz Wagner. And then, he finally gets the ball in his hands with, 6.9. I think it was 4 seconds left. He actually gets the ball. Mm-hmm. And Mikal Bridges kind of whiffs at the ball, on his first effort. And then the second effort gets up and is able to block the 3-point attempt by Franz. I think it was Cam Payne that ended up with the ball, runs it down the other end, and the game's over. But, Luke, a frustrating loss where you've got, the 2 stars for the Phoenix Suns out. You're down big twice in this game. You come back both times. You've got a chance to win it at the end and just not able to make it happen.
Yeah, and you look at Phoenix, too, is like, obviously without CP and without Booker, like you said, this is about as good of a chance as maybe you're going to get to beat the Suns, and at their, with their ridiculous record that they've got right now, like 52-13 or something like that. But the Suns run their starters just into the ground. Like, there was no semblance of like a team that was, trying to take the night off. They didn't play particularly well. They shoot 38% from the field. The Magic shoot 30. They both shoot 38. The Phoenix Suns shoot 38.5. Difference maker, the Magic were not hitting threes as we've seen so many times this year. 7 of 39 from 3, 17% to the Phoenix's 13 of 36. You shoot about the same amount of free throws, converted up almost the same rate, like a 5% difference. There wasn't too much that separated this game, Jonathan. And as I said, Phoenix played their starters more than the Magic played their starters. 32 minutes for Jay Crowder, Bridges 38, 8 and 36, Payne 35, Shamet 39. Everybody else on the bench basically played 20 or less minutes. So this is a game that you need to win. Ayton goes off. Ayton 21 and 19 just dominates the paint in every aspect. It was hard to see that happen because like I said, the Phoenix Suns did not play well. The Magic, these are the games the Magic need to win. We talk about this all the time. The young, inexperienced team needs to pull out these wins. It just so often turns out to be that the Magic just can't score down the stretch whatsoever. It's a constant problem that they've had, even when their defense keeps them in games, even though their defense is not great. It's better than it was, and has been better in the new year, but it doesn't matter if you're not able to convert down the stretch. Cole Anthony does hit some big shots in that fourth quarter, and then you get down the stretch there in the fourth, and it's just the Magic don't have a field goal in the final 2 minutes of the game. Solid again tonight against the Pelicans, where the Magic, yes, won the game by 6, but absolutely could have lost the game too.
Yeah, and I think to me, that was part of the frustration, with Franz. Just like I said, he had a possession, kind of late in the game, where he got the ball and. It seemed like him and Wendell weren't really on the same page. It seemed like Wendell was trying to set a screen and Franz was trying to go around him, and Wendell was literally in Franz's way. Franz had to give the ball up And then Franz doesn't touch the ball again for the final 6 possessions of this game until he gets the ball at the very end, and Mikal Bridges makes a great play. Now, does Franz make that shot? Yes or no? Who really knows? But yeah, he just doesn't get a chance to make the shot there because Bridges makes a great play. And to your point, he recovered really, really well. And to your point, in terms of clutch shooting, going down the line here, Jalen Suggs this season is shooting 57.1% in the clutch. So that's the last 5 minutes of a game where the point differential is 5 points or less. Mo Bamba shooting 45%, Cole Anthony 44%, Franz 41%. Wendell, funny enough, is at 13.3%, but just not even an attempt per game. A lot of these guys are sitting below an attempt. Cole Anthony and Franz Wagner leading the team with Cole 2.2 and Franz 1.3. Now, the Magic haven't played many clutch minutes this year. More so as of late, but plenty of blowouts in this season where the Magic have been really on the receiving end of that more so. But the thing is, the Magic, a lot of times in the clutch, have a tendency to turn the ball over or just not get a good shot at all. And you definitely cannot have that in the last few minutes of a game. But yeah, it's just really perplexing. Franz Wagner, who, and I tweeted this out, and not to bring this up, I think I brought it up a couple of times on the podcast now, but I think I tweeted this out in the beginning of January or sometime in December, where Franz, all those guys were out. Jalen was out, Cole was out, with the sprained ankle and everything like that. And we saw Franz just go on that incredible December run, won Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month in the month of December. And I posed the question. I was like, we're not going to see Franz kind of relegated back to a third option when guys start to come back. And people were telling me, no, there's no way that that's going to happen. And that's exactly what's happened. Since the beginning of the year, he is 4th in field goal attempts per game. Cole is number 1, and then Jalen's actually number 2, then Wendell, and then Franz. And that is like completely backwards. I might have it backwards. It might be Wendell 2nd and Jalen 3rd, but the point stands. Franz should be number 1 or number 2 on this team in field goal attempts per game. Yeah. I don't know if it's just that the rest of the guys on the team don't understand that, or if he's just not ready to be aggressive enough. But when push comes to shove, we used to complain about Evan Fournier and Nikola Vucevic in the high pick and roll towards the end of games. I would kill to get that right now out of Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter towards the end of games. Put those guys in high pick and roll. Let Franz either make a play for himself or a play for Wendell. We're extremely confident in both of their abilities to finish around the rim. So, Jamal, let's see some more of that down the stretch. Some more Franz Wendell high pick and roll.
And I think that factors obviously a lot into the reason for the clutch games, the Magic. And I wanted to get into that too, just here briefly. Philip Rossman-Reich of Orlando Magic Daily did an article just kind of recapping the loss to the Suns, and went on to say that the Magic in close games is what it's qualified as, kind of like clutch situation type things, but says that they are 8-17 in close games, not only playing the fewest close games in the league, but also the only team with fewer than 10 clutch wins this season. But perhaps even odder, Philip goes on to say the Magic have a positive net rating on clutch situations at 0.6 points per 100 possessions. That would suggest the team should be closer to 500 in close games, putting them at 13-12 as opposed to 8-17. Orlando might have 5 more wins this season based on the stats. So it's kind of saying like a lot of these could go either way, but I do think that a lot of your game plan going down the stretch does have a lot to do with the coach and kind of who's getting involved, who the coach is drawing up to get involved. And I think, like you said, at some point you just have to realize what you've got. Franz Wagner is one of the best players on this team already. That's no secret. He's steady for the most part as can be in terms of consistency, right up there with like Wendell in terms of that case, and as far as that goes. But Mosley needs to get the guys involved who should be involved, right? And we'll get into the lineup situation stuff, like going down the stretch and in regards to the game, against the Pelicans, but
which was, I think, a little bit of an anomaly. Like he that's not his best lineup that he's throwing out there. We'll talk more about the Pelicans game, but
right.
I think it's safe to say that's going to be like an isolated incident for the most part.
Well, yes, but I'm saying, like, as far as just lineups in the fourth quarter in general, we know that he's going to be experimenting, but as far as game plan, there shouldn't be any like guessing on who should get at least a touch. I mean, if you're seeing Franz is not even really getting many touches, he's not being aggressive with it, you got to have either a veteran that pulls him aside and's like, hey, like you need to really be the aggressor here, or Mosley doing that, or one of the coaches, to really get him involved, because I think he is a guy that might need to be told to do things right now, at least this early in his career, and eventually he'll get to the point where he can just go into autopilot and take over himself. But I think that he might need a little nudge, and I don't think that he's getting it. So I'd like to see that, like you said, to your point. And I think it does factor into kind of how the Magic fare in close games, because they just simply can't score down the stretch.
And it is a problem. And it was a problem tonight. So let's talk about tonight. So after the loss to the Suns at home, Magic with a quick turnaround. You get on the plane last night. You fly to New Orleans, which, look, there almost wasn't a game in New Orleans today. They had a bird flew into a transformer outside of the arena, the Smoothie King Center, and they didn't have power for like most of the day. Whether or not this game was going to be played tonight was like legitimately in question for a bit, but they were able to play the game nonetheless. And the Magic actually get off to a great start in this one. You start the game down 0-3, but they go on a quick 10-0 run to take a 10-3 lead over the Pelicans. So you have a good first quarter. The Magic take the lead going into the half. I believe the Magic had a 15-point lead at one point in this game. And Luke, I'm 16-point lead, early in the third quarter. Luke, what I wanted to bring up about really the last two games especially, when we talk about the lack of clutch minutes this year and things of that nature, for the better part of this season, the third quarters were a real problem for the Magic, where either they be relatively competitive, going into the half, and then coming out and just laying an egg in the third quarter, and then not able to make up the difference in the fourth, or you're kind of getting blown out at halftime, and then by the start of the fourth quarter, the game is just completely over. Lately that's not been the case. The Magic have been much better in the third quarter, and they were, it was pretty rough start to this third quarter as the Pelicans go on a big run. Again, the Magic are up 16 early in the third. With 2 minutes and 48 seconds left, CJ McCollum hits a three to tie the game at 73 all. And then over the next minute and a half, the Magic go on an 8-0 run, and they take an 81-73 8-point lead into the fourth quarter. So same thing. The Magic were down big in the third quarter against the Phoenix Suns, were able to chip and claw and fight their way back into that game and have a chance to win it or push the game into overtime at the end. And the Magic, could have fallen apart very easily in that third quarter, being a young team, having a guy like CJ McCollum who has single-handedly carried teams to wins again and again and again throughout his career. And here he is going crazy in the third quarter, but the Magic are able to buckle down. It's a tie game, extend the lead out to 8 going into the fourth quarter, and then a couple of seconds into the fourth, now you're up 10 again. Now, Mosley rolled the dice tonight. Okay, he went with a lineup of Gary Harris, Chuma Okeke, Mo Wagner, Terrence Ross, and R.J. Hampton, really for almost the entire fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. Now those guys are able to extend the lead. Actually, Luke, I believe they were up 14 at one point. Yeah, 98-84, 5 minutes to go in this game, and around I'd say like the 6-minute mark, when the Pelicans made it an 8-point game, I'm like, all right, it's time to bring the starters back in. Like, this has been great. These guys have been playing really well, but let's bring the starters, or sometimes as I like to refer to them as the closers, bring them in and close the game out. Mm-hmm. Don't play around with this Pelicans team. If McCollum gets going, he's going to be able to make up 8-10 points in a hurry, like we saw him do early in the third. So, but for whatever reason, and you and I can talk about this now, Mosley decides to stick with that lineup, and down the stretch, we saw this get as close as a 3-point game with 10.4 seconds left, and then the Magic just play, the free throw game the rest of the way and are able to pull out the 6-point victory over the Pelicans. But some people call it tanking. Some people call it rolling with the hot hand. It was a very interesting decision on Mosley's part, and I don't think the game was ever in doubt, but it definitely, the heart started pumping a little bit in the last minute of this game, Luke.
Yeah, I looking at it in that lineup, I can see both sides, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
that's something that producer Kevin, he's not here, but I'm just gonna talk for him here on his behalf.
He's gonna love that.
Yeah. He essentially didn't mind, right? This is how I'll put it, and what he kind of did say is that he didn't mind that that was the closing group. But Jonathan, you had voiced the opposite, right? Like, but you felt like that was kind of playing with fire, just doing that down the stretch. And I think that I would tend to agree. There was people that were saying it's probably just because they were coming off a back-to-back, yada yada, against the Suns, close game. But even in that, I mean, I didn't think that it would have been too crazy for those guys to finish the game. You have Franz, who tonight played 22 minutes. Dell plays 29, Bamba plays 20, Cole plays 25, Suggs plays 20. Now, granted, Suggs wasn't awesome by any means tonight. I think he had like 5 turnovers and 2 assists and 2 points along with it, and only shot the ball 3 times. So there was case to be made for maybe Suggs to not be in the game, but defensively, I don't see why you wouldn't put him in the game. Just put everybody back into there. I don't really care to watch RJ Hampton close the basketball game. And I just think that this is just
2
one of those
points
things.
in 28 minutes tonight.
For RJ. Yeah, RJ,
that's rough.
RJ was bad. But kind of getting
good
used to
defensively.
it. Yeah,
but offensively, really bad.
Yeah. But regardless, would still rather, to see the closers, like you said, in that game. But I do think it has a whole lot to do with the fact that, Mosley kind of put a statement out, like a blanket statement out there to be basically like for us to forgive him for the rest of the season is what it felt like. Like, I'm going to do this, and you guys are just going to have to forgive me for it. We'll be kind of throwing some stuff out there in the fourth quarter and just seeing what we got. It's like, man, we're 67 games into the season. You know what you got. You know which guys stink. You know what lineups work well together. You've been doing it all season. It's not like anybody knew. Like, nobody said we're playing for a playoff spot. It just kind of gives him full permission to throw some ridiculous lineups out there to close the games. And tonight he had some reason for it. Like, if he could back it up in post game, right? Like, hey, these guys got the lead to 14, like 5-6 minutes left in the game. Thought I trusted them to do it. Now, I don't know if anybody asked him about that lineup to close the game. I don't know what his response was, but if that question was asked, I'm guessing that the answer was somewhere along those lines. I trusted these guys to get it done. They played well in the fourth, got us to that point, whatever. I would say that's still kind of ridiculous considering the starters played just as well. In this game, the Magic, seemingly controlled most of the game. So yeah, it is what it is. Magic got the win, but it was ugly. And they were just able to shoot the 3 ball tonight, shooting 38% from 3 while the Pelicans shot 22. And there are only 38 points in the paint for the Magic tonight. And I know we've kind of been tracking like the Magic's points in the paint recently. So kind of crazy to see them only have 38 points in the paint. It felt like they could get to the basket whenever they wanted, especially there in that first half.
Yeah. I'll go back to your point, where you mentioned that, it kind of felt like we were, playing with fire and some people didn't really mind, the lineup. And this is what I'll say in kind of playing devil's advocate is we asked Steve Clifford for 3 years to, ride the hot hand at times. When a lineup is working, stick with that lineup. So I appreciate that Mosley is willing to do that. But yeah, to me, it felt like, okay, like a lineup works until guys get gassed, right? And playing the entire fourth quarter, 6-7 minutes straight, that you usually see out of guys, a lot of times like guys are ready to come out for a breather at that point. And Terrence even mentioned it after the game, like being out there the entire quarter, you get a little bit tired. And especially when you have, guys like C.J. McCollum and, Devontae Graham, Jonas Valanciunas, on the other end of the floor. Jonas has 16 points in the fourth quarter for the Pelicans. So these are guys that can easily get it rolling, especially when they're at an advantage with the other team being gassed. So for those reasons, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, like, down the stretch of that game, man, you start to see not only like the more minutes you play, does your body, start to get slower and more lethargic just by fatigue, but your brain does too. And like down the stretch, like you're in a full sweat. You've been playing almost basically like the whole quarter. You're going to make stupid decisions, and we saw that out of the Magic in the final stretch. The Magic, I believe, the last time that they had a field goal was 5 minutes, 8 seconds left in the game. T. Ross had a dunk off of Mo Wagner assist. Then from there on out, it was like turnover after turnover, it seemed like, whether it was, a bad pass out of bounds, whatever it was. And you were either missing or turning the ball over. And then thankfully, the Pelicans go into having to foul you. Otherwise, I don't know how that game turns out. You're up, and Pelicans are just resorting to the foul game the last minute, and I think the Magic are very fortunate that it came down to that. The Pelicans, just like the Magic last night or against the Suns, ran out of time. It felt like the Pelicans just ran out of time.
Just to give you some more context, okay?
Yeah.
Gary Harris and Chuma Okeke subbed into this game with 4 minutes, 22 seconds left in the third quarter. Did not check out the rest of the game. Played the last 16 minutes, 22 seconds of this game.
Is this why Gary Harris received a DMP the other night? Because Mosley was like, "Hey, one of these games down the line, I'm just gonna kill you. I'm just gonna throw you out there and see if you're
Hampton
still hitting."
Played the last 18 minutes, 50 seconds of this game.
I'm sorry, man. Like that's not good. That's
like
not
to
good.
me, that's not riding the hot hand. To me, that is you're blatantly trying to lose the game.
Yeah.
18 minutes, 50 seconds. That is egregious.
For RJ Hampton to play that many consecutive minutes with the performance he had tonight, listen, his defense was good. It wasn't that good. Like, you don't need to play this man for 18 straight.
And that stretch where CJ McCollum was getting going, a lot of that was on RJ Hampton.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know what? RJ probably looked over to the bench at one point, probably like flashed the jersey like, "Hey, coach." And Mosley, he told him?
Putting his hand up, and Mosley's like, turned his head.
Mosley,
like, nope.
Mosley looks at him dead in the eye and says, "You're young. You're young. You're fine."
Yeah.
You're
Which
fine.
That's my reasoning of why, some of these other guys could have played some more minutes tonight. You're young.
You're young.
Yeah, you played last night. You played, 26 minutes last night. You're fine to play 26 minutes tonight. Like, get back out there.
What a weird game, dude. Like,
Very
just
weird.
Before that, obviously, like the thing after, recording after games for Jonathan and I is very much a like raw reaction. It's not like we've had time to really think about it, right? Like, we're trying to watch the game and also prepare for the podcast at the same time while watching it and note things mentally. But it's like, there's so much stuff happening. RJ Hampton playing the last 18 minutes of the game, not something I foresaw happening.
It's almost 19. It's 18 minutes, 50 seconds.
And then you said also Chuma and Gary played an extensive amount of time.
Played the last
stretch.
16 minutes, 22 seconds.
And it's just one of those things where, like, Jonathan and I step back and look at it, and we're like, this game's weirder than we thought.
Yeah.
The fact that the Magic won the game without doing that shows how much the Pelicans missed, like, Brandon Ingram. Obviously Zion, but...
Obviously, like you said, we're reacting to this in real time. What I would, compare this to is, like, you and I show up to like a accidental death, and we're like, oh yeah, this was definitely an accident. Then all of a sudden we find like a bloody knife and like on the wall. I did this on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we found the murder weapon just now.
We did it. We worked the past 30 minutes, 20-something minutes that you guys have been listening to this. It's just we've been working our way through it, and it all makes sense now. It was a tank job, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh man. Wait till Kevin is not going to be happy listening to this.
No, but hopefully we helped Kevin learn as much as our listeners. That how many consecutive minutes, because that blows my mind. I obviously knew that.
I don't know that I've ever heard of that before in my life, unless it's a do or die playoff game, and a guy's going to play all 48 minutes.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I'm playing RJ Hampton 18 consecutive minutes in a do or die situation. By the way,
let's just call it 19.
Okay,
it was 19 minutes.
You're right. You're right.
All right, that's enough. That's enough about the two games from this week so far. Luke, there is a player who, admittedly, I was not as high on. Maybe that's not the correct description. I wasn't quite sure if what we were seeing at the beginning of the season with this player in particular was legitimate, and I think there is something to that, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But a guy that you have been high on all year long, really even before the season started, you've been really high on this guy. And over the last couple of months, he is just blossoming into an absolute stud. And that is Wendell Carter Jr., or as you like to affectionately refer to him as Wendaddy Carter Jr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has been incredible, Luke. Since the turn of the calendar year, let me go ahead and pull this up. So going into to tonight's game, so this is before tonight's game, Jake Chapman tweeted out, in 2022, players averaging 17 points per game, 11 rebounds, and shooting 55% from the floor or better. The list is Giannis, Jokic, Sabonis, Wendell Carter Jr., and that is where the list ends. It's not hyperbole to say that is elite company, Luke.
Yeah. I mean, that's
the floor is yours.
Okay, so that's absolutely stud. Like, that's stud category that Dell finds himself in, man, and has 100% earned that. I mean, he is just, I don't know what it is, man. I love this kid. Like, the past 10 games, 18 points, 11.2 rebounds, 3.2 assists. That's his last 10 games. And not against, like, slouches either. I mean, you're playing against Phoenix, Denver, Phoenix twice, and the Pelicans aren't bad, man. You saw Valanciunas just absolutely go bonkers tonight. So this isn't bad competition that he's doing it against. The Magic are 3-3 in their last 6 games, I think was what I saw. And Dell is a lot to credit for that, man. He has been just truly great. 20-12 against Phoenix. Was able to help keep the Magic in that game. 13-18 against the Pacers, 21-12 the night before. Houston, 24-12, 25-12 against Denver, 14-11 against the Suns, 22-9 against Utah, 18-8. I mean, it's insane, kind of the consistent guy that he is. But he's not just consistent. Like, he has games where he's going to post, 12 plus rebounds. And 15 plus points. And this is becoming a nightly occurrence. I mean, like I said, his last 10 games, averaging 18 on 11 and 3 assists. I mean, he's facilitating as well. He's getting better with his court vision in terms of when he gets the ball and where he gets it and at his spot and knowing where to go with it. The offense has been better, and I think that a lot of it also has to do with Dell and just kind of getting a better feel for his game. I mean, 3 assists is truly really great for a guy of his size, and just with a team this young. I mean, he's adapting to the team. He's just been incredible. I mean, his field goal percentages have been awesome. In the last 10 games, Jonathan has not had a game besides one in the loss against Indiana where he has shot under 50%. Some of these other games, he's shooting 70%, 81%, 80%. 57%, 54%. He is becoming one of my favorite players. I definitely think he's up there. Probably got to be top 2 favorite Magic players right now, and very easily could be 1.
So, Luke, the last 15 games, just to add a little bit even more context here, last 15 games, Franz is leading the team in points, in rebounds, and in field goal percentage. 17.3 points per game, 11.4 rebounds, 2.9 assists, almost a block a game, shooting 58% from the floor. Obviously, the only person that really coming close to that, you've got Mo at 47.5%. You've got Franz is close. I guess Mo Wagner's also pretty close, but Wendell, the beginning of the year, the 3-point shooting was the big story with Wendell. Like, nothing really seemed that improved with Wendell, other than the 3-point percentage. And there was a big stretch at the beginning of the season. I want to say like the first 10 or 15 games where he was shooting over 40% from the floor. And we're like, if this guy is going to do this, like he's, Vucevic, 2.0 plus, maybe could even be better than Vooch. And since then, since the shooting has come back down to earth, I want to say maybe November and December, he kind of came back down to earth a little bit and didn't always seem like super aggressive and consistent. Like some nights he would give you, 18 points and, 11 rebounds. And then some other nights would give you 9 points and 10 rebounds. And the consistency wasn't there, and just the overall confidence and aggression wasn't there. But really, the last 2+ months now, since the turn of the calendar year, as the team really feels like it's taken a step forward. We're not seeing as many blowouts. We're seeing a lot more close games from the Magic. And Wendell, and I've mentioned this a few times this year, that to me it just felt like Wendell had another level to get to. And I think I talked to you and Kevin about that even as recently as about a week ago. And it feels like he's gotten to that level. Like the last 15 games, again, 17 points, 11.5 rebounds almost, 58% from the floor. Just been a beast really on both ends. He's dunking on guys. He's snarling. He's getting everybody up and excited and hyped up. Like Wendell, if he continues to play at this level for this team, especially next to a guy like Markelle, the chemistry between those two is just so incredibly obvious. They've only played 4 games together so far, but they look great together on the floor. We know that Franz and Wendell also have great chemistry on the floor. So this is the level that I thought that Wendell could get at. Now, is he going to sustain this? I don't know yet. I think that's the only question that I still have. But I think this is who Wendell could be every single night. 17 points, 11 or 12 rebounds, shooting in the high 50% from the floor. And the crazy thing is, it's not all layups and dunks. Like he had a turnaround tonight over Jackson Hayes, and it's just like there's nothing that this guy can't do from the center position right now.
And he's 22, by the way.
And he's 22 years old. Yeah,
it's crazy. And you look at kind of like I really don't want to start already like trying to compare him to Nikola Vucevic by any means, but it's hard not to.
They're different
right?
players.
They are different, but like
he's not the passer. I don't think he's the playmaker that Vooch is, but I mean,
he's having 3 assists a game right now. Like he's been pretty great.
But do you ever feel like Wendell is going to be the kind of guy that you can just throw the ball into the post and run the offense around him the way that you could with Vooch?
No, and I don't
necessarily see that.
But in terms of like the fact of just like straight comparison, right? If you're looking at a world where Dell is just your center, right? At that
if we're talking
point,
production, then I could get on board. But I think they're two pretty different players.
Right, and I wanted to just touch on Vooch in his All-Star season, his first one with the Magic, right? Averages 21 and 12 a game. You look at that, he had his usage, like you said. Can you just let Dell, just chew up the usage and run the offense? The answer to that right now is no. Vooch had a 28 usage percentage in that All-Star season. Right now, Dell has a 20 usage percentage this season. Obviously, right now, you pull back 30,000 feet view, you look and Dell's averaging 14.4 and 10.4 rebounds. These last 10 games, he has been incredible, and I think that, we could see him maybe sneak in if he can continue this production that he's had in the last 10 games. You could see Dell maybe sneak into the almost 16 points a game. Right now he's at 14.5. And get into that 11 rebounds a game territory as well, with only a 20 usage. I mean, to have that usage rating where Vooch was just at an all-star level, producing such a high level at a 28 usage, a guy like Dell, man, I think that if you continue to see what he can do, I'd love to see him get to that point. I hope he does. I hope that this continues. I'm still somewhat skeptical, but I think that kind of what he's shown us over the last 10 to 15 games, man, in this calendar year, I mean, he's a stud.
And let me be a little bit more fair to Wendell. I mean, Vooch did that in his age 28 season.
Right, that's why I said.
And like you pointed out the fact that Wendell's 22. Could Wendell, evolve into that type of player? I mean, maybe. I don't want to like completely rule it out, but I also think Vooch always had that to him, and it took Clifford to kind of unlock that. I just don't know that Wendell is going to be the same. Not saying that Wendell can't play make or that he can't pass, but Vooch I think is. I mean, there's Jokic and then there's everybody else, and I think Vooch is definitely towards the top of that kind of everyone else in terms of playmaking bigs.
And I think this also goes into philosophy. I don't think that this team will ever be great if you are running your offense through a big. You're going to be kind of like what we saw with Vooch, right? You're going to be in that probably 6 to 8 range in the playoffs, and if you're fine with that, that's fine. And you're a good team, but you're not a great team. So I think if Dell can just continue to find kind of his role in this and on this team and in this offense, it's only going to grow with time, man. And I think that Dell could do some really special things, and he doesn't have to do anything crazy, man. He just has to be consistent, and that is all that he has done this season is be consistent.
And can we also take a moment just to talk about how ridiculous this contract is at this point?
Crazy.
Like he's going to be making $14 million next year, 13 the year after, 12 the year after, and then basically 11 the year after that when he's 26 years old. He's going to be making $11 million.
Dell is going to be irritated in 2 seasons when he's sitting there and he's like, I'm only making what this year? And I'm doing what? Like 20, like we're talking 2 more full seasons of development, hopefully healthy, and he's going to only be making that much money. At that point, he's probably just salivating, thinking about what his next contract's going to be. And I really hope the Magic are saving their pennies for that time to come, because I think if he continues this trajectory, he can be very special and get a lot of money in his next contract.
Last question that I want to ask you, and then we'll get into some voicemails here. Looking back at Vooch, and obviously, all-time, great Magic player. I'm not here to debate that, but do you think there's any, weight to the argument that on a truly great team, although Vooch is a very capable player, he's not going to reach like that all-star level? Like we've seen him in Chicago, take a backseat to DeMar and to Zach LaVine. And we've said for years, on a truly great team, Vooch is like your third option, right? Yes. So in comparison to Wendell, although I do think Wendell, if he was like your guy on the team and you ran everything through him, could he put up the type of production to potentially be an all-star someday? Yes. But I think this Magic team is going to be too good to rely on Wendell that much. So I don't think, he turns into like an all-star type of player. But that doesn't mean he's not capable of being an all-star kind of player. And
it's just a fact of not a knock on Dell, but maybe more of a knock to the center position and the power forward center type role right now. It's just not a bigs league unless you're Embiid or Jokic or Cat. Like those are the truly elite like bigs of this of the NBA. And don't get me wrong, Vooch is still averaging right now like 18 points a game and 11 or 12 boards or something. Vooch is a great player, but he is, like you said, like it's just not going to work with him being the number one option. You're not going to it's not an elite team by any means. And I think that goes to say, like with Dell, I said this to you recently, not while we weren't recording, but if you, a couple seasons from now, told me that like Dell is the best player on the team, he has the highest usage, he's producing the most, I'd say, oh, so we're not like elite.
So we suck.
Yeah, we're and suck might be harsh, but like that's like for the sake of getting the point across, sure, that's what we could say. But I think at that point, like it would be like this team is just like good. They're not like
we're the 2018-2019 Magic.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then you're looking at an eternal 7 or 8 seed the rest of the time.
And I can tell you, overwhelmingly, the fan base is not willing to settle for that.
No.
For all intents and purposes, the Magic suck because, this fan base at least, and, to a degree, I understand it. If you're not a contender, you suck.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, that's just kind of the the culture that we live in. Right now, if you're not a contender, it's like, what's the point in being decent?
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of on the same page there. All right, Luke, before we go ahead and close out the show, we've got a couple of voicemails. If you guys want to be featured on the show, if you guys want to call and ask us a question or leave your hot take or just tell us how great we are, you can call 407-603-1189. Again, 407-603-1189. We've got a couple of questions tonight. First up, Fernando.
What's up, guys? My name is Fernando. I'm from Orlando, man. And I just want to come in. Just listen, man. The tank is on. You have to tank. Basketball isn't about winning games. It's about winning championships. And if you allow your fans to be in this mindset where it's okay to try to win, even though when you know you're not good enough to win a championship, that's preposterous. You know what I mean? So I feel like putting out this whole theory that, we need to try and learn how to win. No, we need better players. Everybody who wins championships has superstars. We don't have not one superstar. We don't even have an all-star. So just having regular players and thinking that, we need to try to win games, that doesn't work, man. We need guys who are superstars. So therefore, if tanking and losing gets you closer to getting a superstar, then you do that, because we don't have anybody on the roster right now that can do that. We're not going to get any free agents. Everybody in the NBA knows we have bad management. Our management is horrible. We got rid of every single great player we've had. So we need to really focus on trying to get Jabari Smith. If we don't get Jabari Smith, then I say we trade that pick for a starting guard, or we make moves that way. But as far as just trying to win games, why are y'all getting upset if we're losing games? We knew we were going to lose games this year.
All right, I'm going to start here. First of all, Fernando, I love your passion, and thank you for calling into the show. First of all, you said a lot there, so I'm going to try to take bites through this steak here that was your call, which we really, really appreciate. First of all, we were literally just talking about this 2 seconds ago about people that just will not accept mediocrity, and I get that. I understand that. Second of all, you're being disrespectful to Franz Wagner right now. Franz Wagner will be an all-star eventually. I do feel like we've got a guy, in terms of that star potential in Franz Wagner. Obviously, we just talked about Wendell at length here. The reason that I am not for the tank is because the reason that you draft guys, and the whole point behind basketball, yes, it is to win a championship, but what good is tanking over and over and over and over again if you're not getting good players and you're not winning games? Now we've traded for Wendell Carter Jr., we've drafted Franz Wagner, we've drafted Chuma Okeke, we traded for R.J. Hampton, we drafted Cole Anthony, we drafted Jalen Suggs. Okay, at this point, if none of those guys are good and you just lose every single game, then one guy is not going to fix your franchise. There is not a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant in this draft. Is Jabari Smith Jr. very good? Absolutely. I would take him on this team in a heartbeat, but I don't think he is this franchise savior that you might think that he is. So I get upset. It is very hard to watch your team lose 50, 60-plus games a year, especially when you're not being competitive. Now, a loss the other night, like against the Phoenix Suns, was I upset? Yeah, because the Magic played really well in that game, had a chance to win that game, and they lost. And I'm sorry, but I like to see my team win, occasionally at least. I do understand, your sentiment that the Magic need better players, because we do, and anyone telling themselves that that's not the case is kind of kidding themselves. But luckily, Fernando, I think this team ends up with a high pick this season no matter what, or at least high odds. We've seen this team get screwed by the lottery before. We saw it as recently as last June. So a lot of us are like, are we really ready to put our faith totally into the lottery again? And for a lot of us, the answer is no, because you just never know what's going to happen. You might as well just let things play out the way they're going to play out and see how you do in the lottery.
Yeah. I mean, not much to add there. Obviously, I feel pretty much the same way. I think that, I get it as far as that goes. Like, we're not going to get any free agents here until a culture is built where you're, winning games, as well as have some attractive talent for the to give a reason for someone to come to Orlando by their own will. Unfortunately, right now we have to just draft guys who it's probably maybe against their will to come to Orlando. But it is what it is, man. And right now that's how you've got to build is through the draft. I get it. If you take emotions purely out of it, sure, you can try to just tank and get the best odds possible to get that number 1 pick. But like Jonathan said, and like we all know, that's not always the case. The worst team doesn't always get the top pick, or the worst teams don't always get the top pick. We
usually don't get the top pick.
Right. I mean, you when you get down to those odds and you're like, we have a 49% chance to be, not in the top 3 or whatever that ridiculous those odds are right now. I had that realization last year when we secured the best odds, like tied for the top 3, best odds. And then we were kind of breaking down what that meant and what it meant for the Magic, like potentially not getting a top 3 pick. And it was like, those are pretty heavy odds for us not to get it too. It's like a coin flip, I think, at that point. So, yeah, man, it's a tricky thing. There is luck involved. There's a lot of luck involved in terms of building a successful franchise. But I don't know, man. It is what it is. But yeah, I appreciate that voicemail.
Before we get into our last question, our last voicemail here, Luke, we haven't run the Tankathon tonight, and we're going to do that right now. The Magic, sitting at a record of 17 wins, 50 losses. They currently are the number 1 team. They have 52% chance of securing a top 4 pick, 14% chance of getting the number 1 pick. Same as Houston and Detroit. We're going to go ahead and run this once. You run it once and you share your results. Let's sim the lottery. And the Magic ended up with the 5th pick. So, Fernando, that just proves our point right there. This is the 2nd week in a row that we've run this. And I think both times, Luke, we've ended up with the 5th pick.
Yeah.
So the chances, honestly, are pretty good that you're going to end up with the worst record in the league. We just, look, San Antonio ends up number 1. They jump up 6 spots. Atlanta ends up number 2. They jump 11 spots. They had a 4.8% chance of jumping into the top 4, and they did.
And I know people who might hear that, Jonathan, and be like, ain't no way that's happening on draft night. These are the same odds and the same type of thing that they'll do to determine the draft. Like, they're just essentially rolling the dice here. Whatever happens. They run it one time. They do it one time with whatever method they use. I'm sure it's some type of computer, ran thing, just like this, with a formula, whatever, with everybody's odds and whatever, and they just do it. They just spin the wheel, and this is how it could shake out. I mean, this is what you're looking at with the lottery. It's not all butterflies and rainbows.
Luke, I think that is going to do it for us this week.
Yeah, do we, let's see. Do we do the week ahead?
Yeah, so we've coming up this weekend, I know we have the Minnesota Timberwolves on Friday, and the Magic play again on Sunday, 6 o'clock. They'll take on the 76ers at home. So Friday, the Timberwolves. Sunday, the 76ers.
That's a fat 0-2 to me.
I'm right there with you, 0-2.
Yeah.
Luke, that is going to do it for us this week. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys are listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and Stitcher to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. Please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It would really help us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sixth Man Show, and like us on Facebook. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic.